psychology is an in-depth subject, and usually when you hear psychology taught in academia, it's not taught to influence or cater to the African American community. There's one man in particular that I have to give credit to, whose name is Dr. Amos Wilson, who has books and literature upon literature that caters to African American people and African American children. If you can, go look him up, because he talks about the psychological effects of Western thought. Okay? Before dealing with any information pertaining to the thought pattern of humankind, we must first deal with how one thinks on an individual basis. We must understand that everything starts in the mind. Everything that is produced or manifested started from the mind. For example, the creation of a chair, the creation of mathematics, and even your perception of God, as much as we don't want to admit it, came from the thought process of an individual. Even your perception of God came from the influence of someone else. You didn't wake up as a kid and say, oh, I know who God is. That's learned behavior. You know what I'm saying? This makes the mind the most powerful tool that an individual have during his or her existence. All information must be processed in the mind before it is manifested, resulting in our behavior. So think about this. Everything that you can possibly think about had to be processed in your mind first. Everything. Everything. So, would you say that the mind is powerful? Would you say that the mind is important? Most definitely. Humans are social beings. We interact with others. Okay? We must find a prescription for our way of thinking that has plagued us for years. This prescription is going back to our original mind state before foreign influence. Okay, understand that everything that we think about has foreign influence in it. That's why I'm so up on history. Because if we can find out how we originally were, you will find out originally certain things did not even exist in African culture, which is our original culture, which is the culture that we should be proud of. The only way we can find out information concerning how we think before foreign invasion is to study and critically analyze our past. What was our educational system like before foreign influence? What type of names did we name our children? Because now I don't know where they're getting these names from. What type of clothes did we wear? What was our political structure? Because the political structure now, if it was good, everybody would be okay. There would be no poverty, right? There wouldn't be so much sickness, and there wouldn't be so many economical problems. What did we eat? After we find these things out, find out why you are not doing those things now, and how come people from other nationalities are persistent in their cultural rituals. How did we get to this current state? Is this state good for us? What is our current state as a race of people? Not as individuals, but as a whole. And how would this affect our political future? See, like I said, there is no magic book that's going to save us. We are responsible for our political future. Okay? And once your political future is jeopardized, everything else is jeopardized, because politics affect everything. It affects your pocketbook. It affects your environment. It affects your living situation. It affects how you raise your children. It affects your religion. Okay? When one of us is doing badly as a race of people, all of us are. No one's free when other people are oppressed. Remember that. Because if they do it to one, they would do it to another. You see what I'm saying? They do it to another. When you see things happen and they wrongly accuse, or when they do things that are not right to African American people, picture yourself that happening to you, like how they did, Tiger Woods or O.J. Simpson. You know, picture that being you. Because if they do it to them, they'll do it to you. Okay? In the environment that we live in today as African American people, the definition of the mind procession is called psychology. Psychology is the scientific study of humans or other animals' mental function and behaviors. It is the study of social and mental behavior. It is the study and evaluation of how we react with one another. This is based on our individual psyche. Psychology is most known for being the science of mental life. It is the nature and function of mental structure and processes that underlie human experience, thought, and act. This is what we're dealing with today. And to me, in your everyday life, this is the most important subject. If you do not learn your own psyche, you're in trouble, because others know your psyche. Because if they didn't know your psyche, they wouldn't be able to, how can I say, promote certain products that you are attracted to. You understand what I'm saying? They know black women like certain things, so that's what they create for you to buy. They know black men like certain things and certain type of cars and, you know, certain type of clothes. It's like Tommy Hilfiger. Let's use him for an example. When he first came out with his clothes, they were tight. A few African American men would buy his clothes, but not really. Well, when he found out that African American people like to wear their clothes kind of loose, he created a style. And that style was more loose than what he originally came out with. But originally he created those clothes for Europeans. Am I making sense? Same thing with Polo, Ralph Lauren. If you notice, the clothes are a little bit more baggier, a little bit more loose than what they were in the 80s when people was wearing Ralph Lauren. Because I remember, I couldn't get my arm in a Ralph Lauren shirt. Now they got big and tall Ralph Lauren. I've never heard of that before in the 80s. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, am I making sense? You work in retail. Am I making sense? Why? How did they know to do that and make millions of dollars off that? How is a European company able to make millions of dollars off a group of people who only take up 13% of the population in the United States? And we are the poorest race of people as a whole. So some information is being hidden. Somebody is in a state of ignorance when another race of people can make money off your race and you can't do that. Am I making sense? So just to paraphrase, psychology is the study of mental life. What's going on in your head? In your head, it's a whole nother world going on. And everybody can't see what's going on in your head. But you know what's going on in your head. But what's going on in your head, somebody wants to study that. Somebody wants to know that. That's the study of mental life. The study of mental function. Okay? And it's a word that I used in one of my lectures. It's a study, but also it's a what, Amelia? It would be a what? When you study a pattern of something, what is it called, or what? No, when you study something and something has a pattern to it, it becomes a what? Start with an S. It becomes a science. So you don't have to say study. You can say it's the science of mental life. Okay? Now, here's your brain. Here's your brain on drugs. No, I'm just kidding. There are three faculties of the mind. Anybody know what they are? Anybody? And I hope y'all taking note with this. You know what y'all should do? Y'all should take note with this and use your own brain and try to figure out yourself within the definition that I'm giving you. Honestly, that's why I'm doing this. So you can find out why you think the way you do. Because you don't know why you think the way you do. How many people took a psychology class? Can I see your hand? Okay. You? No? Just 3? You? Never took a psychology class? Did you try to, honestly, be honest, did you try to figure out how you think after you took that psychology class, or you just tried to take the test and try to pass, you know, take the test and pass? Right?
For the most part, yeah.
Exactly. You didn't try to figure out why you think the way you think, right?
Well, for the African American psychology class, yeah. But not for the regular one.
Not for the regular one? Okay. I'll take that. One is cognition. Okay. One is emotion. And one is, I'm just going to read this to you. The 3 faculties of the mind known in the broad study of psychology are knowledge, feelings, and desires. This is the basic trilogy of the mind. Cognition, psychology, and cognitive science is usually referred to as an information processing view of an individual's psychological functions, which is our knowledge and beliefs. Emotion, which is our moods and feelings, and motivation, which is our desires, drives, purposes, and goals. Psychology tries to understand how we process these things and the outcome of our perception. There is a basic process on how the mind works. We must analyze and understand how this works and its basic functions so we won't be deceived. All right? If you had to compare your brain to something, you should compare it to a computer. When you buy a new computer, what's the first thing you have to do to that computer in order for it to function as a computer? Chris?
You gotta put the operating system on, you gotta configure it.
What else? I want to get to the good stuff.
Load the hard drive.
You gotta load a hard drive. A hard drive consists of what?
A lot of memory.
A lot of memory. Okay, but we already got the memory.
A lot of memory, data.
Data? Okay, hold on. What is data?
Data is just basically like
information, right?
Info.
Information. Info. Same thing with the brain. Your brain can't function without info. Right? Can't function without info. So now that we know that, we should be a little bit more discreet on how info or data enters into our brain. In what ways do data enter into our brain? Somebody tell me that? I know this is simple, but I want to know.
I mean, you gotta learn it. You gotta put it there.
Okay, how though?
Researching.
What's one of the main things? I mean, that's a simple question.
You see it, you hear it.
Your 5 senses, right? I said this is simple, but it makes sense. 5 senses. All right. Can somebody else tell me what else influences the mind that you wouldn't even think about? We go through this all the time, but we don't really think about it. What else influences the mind? What are some of the things that's on the outside that influences how you think?
What you see.
What you see? Be more specific. What channels our psychology? What influences our psyche? I name one for y'all to give y'all. We're going to start with the weather. You think I'm kidding? I can prove it to you. It's cold outside in Michigan here. It gets real cold outside. But your whole mood changes when you get them tickets to go to Florida, don't it? Right? And then when you get to Florida, you're in a whole another mind state than what you were when you was in Michigan. Am I right or wrong?
You're right. I did that when I moved to Florida.
Exactly. But do we think about, when we think about the weather, we don't think about our mind, do we? We just think about our physical body, right? Well, the weather has a lot to do with the way you think. Now, let's take it back to history. When Europeans were used to being in a certain environment, Africans were used to being in a certain type of environment. when they got together, or when one seen the other, don't you think it was a little bit of a clash there? Huh? Y'all listening to what I'm saying? If I live in Michigan, where for at least 6 months it's cold, I can't give someone who lives in Atlanta a clear view of what they should do to take care of their physical body, because the climate is different. The way you take care of your physical body is different than somebody maybe in Atlanta. I'm gonna prove it to you. One day it's 80 degrees in Michigan, and the next day it could be 60 degrees, and you see Michigan people with a coat on, right? Or, I'm sorry, yeah, say it's 60 degrees and then it go to 70 degrees the next day, but people still rocking their coat, right? Because if you've been living in Michigan for a long time, you already know that's how you catch a cold. Am I right or wrong? Does the weather affect your mentality? Yes, it does. Am I making sense? All right. Another thing that affects your mind, and everybody can relate to this, is the economy. Everybody can relate to that, right? Must I give an example for that? Rich people, they think different than poor people, correct?
Yes.
So if majority of African American people are poor, their mentality is a little bit different. What I would do to make sure I'm fed is a little bit different than what somebody else would do for them, to feed their family, correct? So the economy has something to do with your mind. These small little things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, if we start to understand that it affects our mind, maybe we would look at it a little bit different. And that's what I'm trying to get you to do. Okay? Another thing that affects your mental perception. Remember, I don't want us to get off. This is all dealing with your mental perception. And your mental perception, how you perceive things, how you look at things. A poor man is going to look at things a little bit differently than a rich person. Okay? If I see a half a sandwich on the table and don't nobody touch it for 5 minutes, and I'm a poor man, I might start salivating at the mouth because I'm hungry. Or you understand what I'm saying? But if I'm rich, or if I'm a middle class person and I see a half a sandwich sitting on the table for about 5 minutes, the first thing I'm gonna be thinking about is somebody need to throw that away.
Right.
Am I making sense? See the difference? I'm sorry. The next thing we want to deal with is family. And I don't have to elaborate there, because we all know that we influenced by our family. Everybody was raised different. And I think America is proving that right now, especially in the African American community, because it's like a 70% divorce rate right now, to show that everybody raised different and everybody don't get along. So family has a lot to do with your mental perception and how you perceive things. What was mom thinking? What was dad thinking? And how they were thinking is how you now think. As much as you want to get away from how your parents thought sometimes, and then you run across one of your relatives and they say, you act just like your daddy, or you act just like your mama. And you be like, no, I don't. And you say, yes, you do. What is that? See what I'm saying? It all starts here. The next thing. Friends. And I'm going to put optional by friends. You know why I'm going to put optional by friends? Because some people in the black community especially have friends they need to get rid of. But it's affecting their mental perception. Okay? Because once you get conscious and your eyes open up and you go to places like this, it might make you get a second glance at your friend and say, well, maybe I need to reevaluate who I'm hanging around. Because I don't care how much a person is grown. I'm grown. Can't nobody influence me. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. It's an old saying that say, birds of a feather flock together. if you have whorish ways, okay, you know what I'm saying? See where I'm going with this? And you talk about you a good girl, I can't tell because you're always around these other people. So maybe you need to change your friends. You know, you can't be, if I'm trying to be a professional and I'm always hanging around thugs, see what I'm saying? Maybe somebody is going to mistake me for a thug.
You know, better come from
Okay.
Exactly.
Will peer pressure be a factor even as an adult? Because some people may think it just affects adolescents and teenagers, but do you think, in your opinion, does it affect adults as well?
I think that it does affect adults. I think it's more on a subconscious level than kids. But I do think it affects adults. And the reason why I say subconscious, because subconscious is more of what you're not aware of that you're doing. When something's in the forefront of your head, you know what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? But something subconscious is in, you know, I'm going to give you a good example. This always, like, I really think about this. You ever do your daily routine, wake up in the morning, go to work, and all of a sudden you want a Wendy's cheeseburger. You haven't had Wendy's in like a long time, and all of a sudden just craving comes over you and you're like, you know, I want a Wendy's cheeseburger. What is that? That's your subconscious mind kicking in, because about 3 months ago you had a Wendy's cheeseburger and you were very hungry, and it was the best cheeseburger you ever had in your life. Am I making sense? So subconsciously, that subconscious thought that's been in your head for about 3 months that you really wasn't paying attention to, now for some reason it comes to the forefront and you want a Wendy's cheeseburger. So some things that we do, we're affected by adults subconsciously, and it might come to the forefront a little bit later. We don't even realize it. The way we dress, what we eat, you know. You ever been out with your friends and you didn't feel like going to Olive Garden, but 3 other people wanted Olive Garden, so you went to Olive Garden and you ate some Olive Garden food. And when you got there, before you didn't want Olive Garden, but now that you're there and you smelling the aroma of Olive Garden, forget it, I give in. I'm about to eat me some Olive Garden. That's a simple peer pressure, but see what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm going to use you another example. You got a couple. I don't know if I should use that example. I don't want to offend anybody. But let's say you got a couple, and I've been married before. One spouse is a certain weight, and the other spouse is a certain weight, okay? Depending on whether they're both going to lose weight is depending on, you know, who influences, you see, the other. They might never lose weight because he like, well, my wife is this weight, so I can be this weight. But if the wife see the husband maybe losing weight, you know what I'm saying, and he's going to the gym and he's working out and he's getting healthy, maybe that'll influence her. You see what I'm saying? So that's adult peer pressure.
Yeah.
It might not be as blatant as kid peer pressure, like, come on, you know, smoke this, come on, drink this, but it's still there. Okay?
Right.
All right. Did I answer?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I had another slight question.
Sure, go ahead.
Does that get into also manipulation? Is that another topic or bullet point?
Manipulation to me is different. Okay? Because peer pressure, I could be wrong, but to me, peer pressure can be something that's unintended. Like somebody can pressure you into doing something and they don't even realize that they're doing it. Manipulation to me is something that you're intentionally, consciously trying to influence this person to do something. That's my opinion. Peer pressure can be a kid or an adult can have peer pressure, and the person who's influencing them might not even know that they're influencing them. But because this group of people is doing it, I want to do it too. See what I'm saying? So that's still your peer, and it's still pressure to do something. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
Thank you.
no problem. Okay. Majority of us, that's adults, where are we most of our time?
Work.
There you go. So what is another thing that helps with our mental processing is our work environment. You at work for 9 hours a day, where you're supposed to be if you work a real job, or I ain't gonna say a real job, but you know, any adult, I'm saying, you know what I'm saying. Even if you part-time, it's still 4 hours out your day that you're dealing with people on a daily basis that's constantly putting stuff in your head. The same people, usually, same people. Okay? So you gotta watch what goes on at work. Why am I saying all this? I'm saying all this to say this. In the African American community, usually the things that I'm naming right now, I can pick them apart. And I guarantee you, most of them is not for our benefit as African American people. Promise you. They're not. I am a conscious brother. I go to family reunions. I talk to my father, who is a pastor, and he don't like when I talk that black stuff. Okay? He just don't. He has a problem with it. You see what I'm saying? So my family, definitely, you see what I'm saying? I have to be aware of what I'm hearing, definitely, around my family, because, yeah, they're not saying things that's, you know, to my benefit as an African American man sometimes.
Absolutely.
Yeah? When I'm at work, everybody knows that I'm in the hip hop gang. I definitely have to be aware of what goes in my ears and what I see with my eyes in the rap game now, because you got rappers wearing really tight pants that I just don't think I can fit. So, if I was a weak-minded individual, I can be influenced by that. Okay? The weather. I definitely need to know about the weather, because the people who know me know that, and I can only speak for myself. Don't you think I'm bragging? I can only speak on Gennaro. I can't speak for anybody else. I work out at least 4 times a day of the week. Okay? I go in the detox room. I try to sweat out everything I possibly can. I try to drink as much water as I can. I don't drink pop. You know what I'm saying? I'm not perfectly healthy, but my goal every day is to become healthy. So people around me, they do things that's not, that the weather wouldn't approve of, okay, let's say. That can get you sick because they're not aware of the effects that this can have on your respiratory system. You see what I'm saying? Like when people go outside in the cold and smoke a cigarette. That's not good. Not only is you messing up your lungs, but the cold air is going into your lungs off. You see what I'm saying? Now, personally, me, I used to be a smoker. So I understand when that nicotine attack happened, you don't care if you got just a t-shirt on, you're going to go in, if it's 20 degrees outside, you're going to smoke your cigarette. Thank God that I quit. But you see what I'm saying? So that's a form of, we don't even have to go with the friends thing, because we got people that we grew up with, we know ain't no good for us, but we consistently hang around them knowing that they're not good for us. Okay, and work. Economy, we don't have to talk about that. And that's something I really want to dive off into, because that affects your mental processing a lot. Because a poor person, like I gave y'all an example, thinks differently than a rich person or a middle class person. Okay? So, once you become aware that everything affects your psychology, maybe you will be more aware of your surroundings. One of my favorite subjects is your religion. Religion in the black community, or the African American community, I want to say it correctly, has a lot to do with your influence. Because a lot of things you would do, and there's a lot of things you wouldn't do because of your religion. Am I right or wrong?
Absolutely.
Religion tells you to do this, religion tells you not to do this. Okay? Etc., etc. It's even gotten to the point where you can be an African American person, and this person can be a part of one religion, and this person that's African American can be a part of another religion, and they combat with each other, and they judge each other as far as thinking that one personality is superior to the other one. I don't think that's fair personally. I don't think your religion should define you. Now I can pinpoint certain things about you because of your religion, but I'm not going to judge you according to your religion, because I know bad Christians and I know good Christians. I know bad Muslims and I know good Muslims. I know bad Buddhists and I know good Buddhists. There's bad apples in every bunch. So religion, especially in a black community, we don't like to talk about psychology, especially in the church, because we want to look at everything as so spiritual. But even in the Bible, there's a scripture that says that you're supposed to renew your mind. Even Paul said that. So he knew the effects of the mind. If your mind not right, then you can't worship God or read the Bible, or whatever the case may be. A person that can't read the Bible, right? He can have all the Holy Ghost in the world. He better go take some ABC classes, or he ain't gonna be able to read the King James Version. Am I making sense? So everything starts in the mind, even your perception. One more, 7. God's perfect number. Can y'all name one more thing that influences you? Can y'all think of anything else that influences you that's very important, that you wouldn't even think? Huh? What you about to say, bro? Sound like you about to say it, yeah.
Food.
Thank you. My man. Cuz, my man. Food. Now check this out. Let me tell you why I like food. Understand something. There are chemicals in food. Am I right or wrong?
Absolutely.
Chemicals affect the neural part, or your nervous system in your body. Am I right or wrong? So if they're putting chemicals in food and you're eating food at least 3 times a day, wouldn't you say that food influences your mental perception? Wouldn't you say that food affects your psyche? That's number 7. This is why it is important. The 7 things that I told you that affect your psyche, is important to go back and find out how we originally thought. Because when you go in the past and you find out how you originally thought, you will find out what you should be influenced by that's right and not wrong. Western thought is not good for us. We can't digest Western thought the way we think we can. We've adapted to Western thought, but that don't mean it's good for us. You see what I'm saying? If I wear a size 12, if I put on a size 10, after a while, I'm going to deal with it. If I was to walk in a size 10 shoe. Yeah, but I mean, after wear it to the point where it get comfortable. Maybe my big toes start sticking out or something. I don't know. But the point is, we deal with it. Well, that's what's been happened with Western thought. We've got adjusted to Western thought till we think it's okay for us, and it's not. We've got adjusted to Western fashion. See? Western religion, Western food, Western work. And these things are not good for us. What are we to do about them? Well, we need a prescription for these things. My personal prescription is finding out who you were in the past. You have a genetic makeup. You get 23 chromosomes from your dad, you get 23 chromosomes from your mom. You have a strand of DNA. Scientifically, your DNA stretches back thousands of years. Okay? I'm going to give you a good example. If I was to work out my physical body for 2 years, and I stopped working out for 2 months, I might lose a little bit of my muscle. But once I start working back out, my mind is so complicated and it's so well put together. God put it together so well that what happened is, over a course of a shorter amount of time that it took me to work out, my body starts snapping back the way it was when I used to work out. And it'll take me a shorter amount of time. You see what I'm saying? Because your mind has started to, oh, he's working out again. Let me get back, Your fat cells will start shrinking and everything. This is true. Well, you have a strand of DNA that will stretch back. Find out what your ancestors did. See? Before foreign influence. So you can find out what's good for you. You can't find out what's good for you within the paradigm of Western thought. That's why I love when people come and they say, well, I went to college. You're not smarter than me. I went to college. You don't know more about your history than I do. I'm like, okay. Because you only learned your history within the paradigm of Western scholarship. It's literal thought. Can anybody give me an example of literal thought? This all has to do with the way your mind processes things. If you are aware of certain things, your mind is going to process things a certain way. It's like having spidey senses. When you know your history and you know what's good for you historically as a person of African descent, when certain information enter into your mind, you know whether to keep it or whether to throw it away. But if you do not know your past, you don't know to do that. Okay? There was a baseball player that made a racist comment against the Jewish community, and he just had to apologize for that. I forgot the baseball player's name. But when somebody do something against us and make racial comments about us, we don't stand up like that because we don't even know our own history to stand up. You see what I'm saying? So why is mental procession important? Because of that very reason. You don't even know when to take up for yourself because you don't even know what's good for you. See what I'm saying? Can anybody give me an example of literal thought, please? No? It's when one learns to accept all information at face value and never look beneath the surface for additional details. Simple. You take things for what they are. I know people that read the Bible that do that. Okay? To me, that's not good. The next type of thought, and within these thought processions, you should figure out what type of thinker are you. And maybe you will learn how to process information correctly. Inferential. Sorry. Inferential thought. Can anybody give me an example of inferential thought? It's when one learns to infer or read between the lines. Okay? And they look at the dual meaning behind something. Okay, because everything has more than one meaning to it. Remember that. Everything does. Everything has more than one meaning. Don't ever look at something and say, I'm going to take it for what it is. Nah, everything has an underlying meaning to it. Even when somebody says something to you, whether it's hot. Women know that good. Because when a brother say hi to you, you already know he's trying to get your phone number or something. He ain't said nothing about your phone number, but you automatically think, I got a boyfriend. He might not even say nothing about that. I got a boyfriend. That's how you interpreted that. See what I'm saying? That's how your mind processed that. You see what I'm saying? So, infertive thought. Women are good with infertive thought when it comes to that type of stuff. Well, be that way with other stuff and you will be a bad mama jamma. Another type of thought process, and I'm going to say this in closing, is evaluative thought. Is where one learns to make an intelligent decision based upon the comparison of various sources of information, particularly those drawn from one's own personal experience. I love evaluative thinkers. If I am going to learn about any spiritual institution, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, I'm not only going to hear the opinion of the Bible from a preacher, but I'm going to hear the opinion of the Bible from someone who don't even believe in God. Because I want to know how come he don't believe. You understand what I'm saying? I want to know the Bible from a person who studied history their entire life. What do you think about the Bible? And then they compare. See the three. That's evaluative thinking. What's my point in saying all that? What you have to find out which type of thinker you are. So when you start getting information concerning who you are originally, you will know how to process it. When you start getting information from people who are your friends, people who are your family, people at work, you will know how to process it. And it also tells you how should you process it. And does it benefit you as a person? This is what I tell people in closing. I tell people this. Anything that influences you that does not liberate you as an African American, throw it in the garbage. We are the only race of people that cling on to things that doesn't liberate us as a people. Am I making sense? If you're a part of a religious institution, hopefully that religious institution is showing you how to live on a day-to-day basis as an African American person. Because that's who you are first. When the police pull you over, they don't see a Christian. They don't see a Muslim. They see a black person. Am I making sense? When you go to work, your boss, who might be European, does not see you as a Christian. You might have just left Bible study the night before. But they see an African American woman or an African American man. So I must learn how to process information, making that in the forefront of my mental. Use that as your blueprint. Use that as your guide when you are processing information. Understand that that's what you are first. You are an African American before you're anything else. Before you're anything else. If you are an engineer, you're not an engineer. You're an African American engineer. If you are a Christian, you are not a Christian. You are an African American Christian. You understand what I'm saying? Always put that in the front of your mental perception. Excuse me. Because the perception that others have of you is not the same perception that you have of yourself. So you must find out, how does other people perceive you? And that is how you determine your behavior. If you do anything other than what I just said, you might end up somewhere you don't want to be. In your work environment, with your friends, with your family, and even in church, or even at the mosque, or even at the synagogue. Use that as your platform for your everyday living. In order to do that properly, you must learn who you were in the past. Because the people that don't know their past, that means they don't know why they are in the current state that they're in. And if you don't know the current state that you're in, you definitely don't know where you're going. Am I making sense? So everything that I just said, it all starts in the mind. So I challenge everybody here, when you go home, to do a little research on psychology and apply it to your life, the same way you would do in a spiritual institution. When the pastor tells you to apply the Bible in your life, or in the Quran, the imam tells you to apply the Quran in your life. Apply psychology in your life. Start emptying out Western thought and putting in thought of things that represent you, such as where you come from. It's not hard. We got Google.com now. You can look up anything. So in closing, any questions? Anybody? Any questions? Look like you asked Amelia. Look like you asked a question. Any comments?
For the 3 levels of cognitive thought, do you agree or disagree that you don't necessarily have to be in one? You can actually go through them depending on the topic or situation?
That's a good point. Yes, I do agree with that. Because depending on what you're dealing with, you know what I'm saying? A good example.